Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to each and everyone from whenever and wherever you're listening to this podcast. I am Trilisa Panta together with
I'm Marla Saligumba.
I'm Gia Rodriguez.
I'm Zildjian Tome.
I'm John Paul Rosario.
I'm Kenneth Jan Baltasar.
So, welcome guys. In today's episode, this episode is inspired by a question. But before that, I would just like to um, ask, how was your day today? Because I think some of us went to Mapua to attend our face-to-face classes. So, how is everyone?
I actually did not have face to face today, but I stayed at home and did some of my modules and deadlines today. So yeah, how about the others?
My day was fine, but it was tiring. But I have learned so much today.
For me, it's been a tiring day since I also have face to face and there's a lot of traffic, and also I take my exams a while ago. So, but it's been a good day. So how about you guys?
I think it is a tiring day, but even though I don't have a face-to-face classes because there are a lot of deadlines and schoolworks to do.
For me, I recently have two exams and I still have ongoing due date. Yeah, it is tiring for me.
I guess we all had a tiring day. But we are here gathered together to speak of this topic that is inspired by a question. So to start off, the question that inspired today's episode is, what do you think of when you say nationalism? Because if we all know and if we all notice, nationalism has been brought up in many different ways and been described and is described in broad ways, diba? But for me personally, I say that I define nationalism as a love for one's country. Don't you think, diba? When you say nationalism, it is something that is not only taught to us when we were young, but it is also something that we learn to associate with through our experiences, and of course what through the things that are happening in our society. How about you, Zildjian? What do you think of when you say nationalism?
I think you are actually right, Charlize. There are really different ways that we can show our nationalism. We all have our ways, but for me, I connect nationalism with learning about history, because when you know your history, you can trace your roots, and when you know your roots, you can know your identity as a Filipino, and by that, you can do so much for your country and especially for your countrymen. And I think one person that has exemplified this was none other than our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal, when he annotated Antonio de Morga's work. Now, speaking about Rizal, let's talk about Rizal. Our views about Rizal now that we are in the end of our course. Perhaps there are things that we used to think about Rizal before. And again, now that we are in the end of our course, maybe there are things that have changed. So let me start with my personal view. For me, before I just used to think about Rizal as our hero. I know that he was executed in Bagong Bayan. He wrote his novelas, and that is what I think that what makes him a hero for me. But as we go through our course, I have realized that there are more of Rizal's action that made him deserve to be called a national hero. So How about the others? What do you think are your what are your narratives before taking the course of Rizal and now that we are ending our course?
Um, I agree with what you said, and because before I only know Rizal through his works and biography because it was taught in high school and even in elementary. Now I know Rizal not just as a hero but more of as a writer because in his writings we can see his true purpose, mission, and even his wish for the betterment and freedom of the country. Now, this made him a significant figure in Philippine history, and I think we can see his significance and value through his works because that is where we can celebrate and honor him. The way he opened and inspired the Filipinos to rise up and defend the country is what makes him valuable and one of the reasons why we are standing in this country today. So, for the others, what do you think is the significance of Rizal?
I think the significance of Jose Rizal for today is that in his writing, he want us to give us the freedom from the Spaniards, and until if I will connect it until now, we are still what do you call this, medyo wala pa yung freedom because of the lack of communication that are happening. um, I think they call this, there's a something called that, the red tagging that the government red tag you. uh, they might have you been silenced or anything that may happen to you. um, I can say that the for today, or I say if I compare it from past, today is more complicated. um, if I will classify this, the the social the beliefs of the result will be of the product and synthesis of teaching, is what is known as enlightenment philosophy. And I believe that in the trust of liberalism, that rather than evolution, society need more reform, and that reform should come from above because there are more knowledgeable people with knowledge in politics and governance, as well as in liberation from education. And now I will ask you this: what is one of the ideologies of Rizal you align with?
Yes, I also agree in what you have said. The trust of liberalism, that society needed reform than revolution. So for me, the one ideologies of Rizal that I align with is his will to fight for our rights. For me, we as a citizen of a country should know what are the things we are entitled for. And I also think that Rizal and his ideologies are still relevant in today's time. So, how about you guys? Do you also think that he's still relevant in today's time, or how is he relevant in today's time? Because for me, I believe that Rizal continues to be relevant today as a model for all young Filipinos who aspires to break barriers and achieve more than the ordinary. It is useful for these young Filipinos to take another look at the life of Rizal, especially his academic and career achievements, his passion for excellence, and his drive for achievements. And also, one of the things that can make me say on how is Rizal relevant today is his passion and strong will to help the Philippines. From the previous election, you can see that many Filipinos are debating for the candidates who they think will serve our country. It shows that even in the present, some of the qualities of our national heroes still inspiring others. So, you guys, how do you think is Rizal still relevant in today's time?
So yes, that was a wonderful insight, Gia. I personally loved how you highlighted his relevance because of how he is a model to young Filipinos today, and I do agree. For me, Rizal is still relevant today because of how his ideologies influence some of our decision making. Although not directly, but we do take inspiration from his values and beliefs. So, with that said, we finally reached the conclusion of this podcast. But before we end this episode, I would like to add my own points and reflections of Rizal's ideologies. So, we've seen Rizal be called a hero, a novelist, a myth, or even a divine figure. But I want to point out that Rizal can also be seen as an artist. We can classify Rizal's acts, works, and the results of his works as similar to those of an artist's. His art is in how he influenced others and how he views the world or society. So, as we've learned about Rizal's life, we've come to realize that Rizal, although had a big part in the revolution, was actually a pacifist. He never painted with blood, he painted with his ideologies, and he proved that words are not superior to action. Instead, words influence action. Hence, that was his art. That was how he attracted others to look at his artistry or his mind. The whole concept of art has evolved through the decades. Art cannot be limited to the appreciation of the viewer's eye, but is through the exerted meaning portrayed by the artist. So Rizal did not fight the revolution. He actually painted it. How about you guys? What are your own points and reflections of Rizal's ideologies and works?
I personally love what you said about Rizal not fighting the revolution but painting it. Because nowadays we see change in means of violent ways. In our society today, we can see violence in different ways. You post something not everyone agrees with in social media, you'd get bashed, or you go out wearing something not common, diba? You'd get hatred from other people. But since you stating the fact that Rizal painted the revolution, he fought for the change he believed in ways that we never imagined a revolution can start. So for me personally, I align with this ideal of Rizal that reforms can be done in non-violent ways. And in today's time, I think the best way we can manifest it is if we associate ourselves with foundation and communities that reflect the change we are asking for. So we start with ourselves so that we can see the change that we want to see. So we change ourselves in a way that we influence others to also change so that we can see the change that we want and the change we are asking for. So I think your point was beautiful, Marina. How about the others? What do you think of when you seeing Rizal now in a different view?
What you have said is very inspiring, but maybe after all, what I have really learned about Rizal is that he is not just a simple figure in our history. We do not study Rizal now just for the sake of passing our course. We did not study Noli Me Tangere and really in high school to be entertained by its every chapter and characters. But I think we study to take inspiration from, again, what you have said, Rizal's ideologies. that that were reflected in his works to ignite sense of nationalism in our hearts as Filipinos, especially to the youth. The youth is always referred to as pag-asa ng bayan, but we cannot turn that into reality if we did not at least give a glimpse of what Rizal has been fighting for. We must know why Rizal believed in his beliefs so that we can do what he is doing. So what about the others?
I agree with what you said, and I truly believe that change and attaining freedom through passive or non-violent means is what Rizal really stands for. And his relevance today makes it seem like he can predict the future because the but it only means that the problems in the past can sometimes still exist today. And I think we can see or use results work as a guide to even come up with a solution to address these issues. And I think what Rizal really symbolizes is the nationalism, and being nationalistic to the country is very important because not only it shows your love to the country, but it also means that you are willing to protect and be proud to the country wherever you are. How about the others?
I agree with you. For me, I feel Rizal is a compassionate, sympathetic, and beneficent citizen. He is a proponent of social justice and equality, which we should all strive for. And I believe that if if, if we are or if there were 1,000 of people who are like Rizal, um, our society will be in good shape, or rather, our society will be good, or I can say it will be the best society. And I can always say this, that I've always wished that I could be like Rizal in some elements of this life. But I know that unlikely to happen. But what I'm doing is giving it my all and making every attempt to become a useful person in a variety of areas of my life. For you, what do you think it is?
So for me, I'm the last one to talk. The reflection of Rizal's ideologies and work. So I agree to all that you have said, and that it said that Rizal's works and ideologies is a great help to us Filipinos. So most of his works is to defend the reputation of the Filipinos. So for him, the words like indolent and coward is not fit for Filipinos. So lastly, the one thing that I like the most on what Rizal did is that he shows you that you can help in your own way, in your own strength. So Rizal, in short, is he is short and thin. He is not fit forward, but it doesn't stop him from his passion to help our country. So for me, he helped us in his own way by words and ideologies, like you have said. So after studying this subject, I realized that it is not just about Rizal's life and works. It is also about us, the current generation. Rizal teaches us to fight for our rights, not in an aggressive way, but it also still instills in us the nationalism and patriotism that we should always give importance to our own country, and also to pay tribute to those heroes for devoting their lives to providing us with the freedom we have right now. So that's all.
Okay, we've heard a lot of interesting insights today from everyone, but sadly, that would be the end of our podcast. I would like to thank our amazing podcasters for sharing their insights and views of Rizal and his ideologies. And of course, thank you to the listener for listening to this episode of our podcast.